you can watch like the 2008 or 2007 finals and you're like, these guys are terrible. Like I'm looking at like,
yes.
What were we doing back then? Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of the Dodgeball Podcast. So happy to be back from my break and get back to one of my few loves in life, which is dodgeball, or at least talking about it. Today will be Glen Spejcher. Really happy to get this one out, so let's just get right into it. Alrighty, well, I've got Glen with me. Glen, thank you so much for not only being flexible and dealing with the schedule changes, but just for giving me some of your time this evening. Let's just go ahead and start with what teams do you play for and what region are you from?
Well, thanks for having me, Steve. The teams that I play for, oh boy. All right, so my primary region is the North, except I live in California right now.
Right.
But my primary team for Elite would be Chicago Task Force, and that's who I play with for Open and Pinch and Co-ed No Sting at Nationals, I guess, because we don't have that in the North. But my co-ed 8.5 team is formerly known as Pop Death Force, and now we just kind of condensed it to Force. And then since I'm out here in the West, I'm kind of just rolling with these young guys called Tuda. And then my Wednesday league at WeHo Dodgeball is called We Get It.
Nice.
So those are the teams I'm currently on.
Cool. So on quite a few teams. What is Task Force Unicorn no longer a team?
It is in our hearts, but to professionalize the sport better, we had to change it to Chicago Task Force.
Nice. I love that, by the way. I know was that something that was kind of Mark's idea, or was that like a collective kind of?
No, I think and we can talk about Elite eventually, but like every year with Elite, we try to legitimize it even further, including like team name changes. And that's been happening every year across all regions too. It's not just our team.
That's good. Well, I'm happy to see that, because when I be talking about Elite to anybody, the last thing you want to do is just say like, oh yeah, there's all these crazy teams like Rise and Titan and blah blah blah, and then you have like these like I don't know, average Joes or heaven forbid something from the movie, right? You're trying to get out of that and trying to
or the Dodge Fathers, which is like every charity tournament you go to, there's always a Dodge Fathers.
Yeah, that one's not so bad. I'm just thinking like balls deep. I mean, come on, it's been a long time. Just stop with the stupid innuendos and just yeah. I mean, the way I guess in order to take dodgeball serious, that also includes like kind of making the team serious. Like you want to create a team that kind of like a city can unite around, Exactly.
Kind of like any other major sport.
Yeah, and I mean, that's just I like how it's in increments. It's we're making those tracks towards progress, and there'll come a day when, everybody will have matching uniforms from not just a jersey, but shorts and dare I even say socks. It's going to be amazing. I can't wait.
Yeah, we're getting there. And maybe even some spectators that are wearing our jerseys too.
Oh, that's happening. I love seeing how people are offering to, hey, we're ordering our shirts or our jerseys for our team. Let us know if you want one, and people are hopping on board.
Yeah, and that is great, by the way. I'm happy people are doing that.
I bet you are, and that's funny because that brings up a question. Your shirt and jersey collection. Holy crap, man!
Yeah, it's a lot.
Yeah, I was gonna kind of save that specific section for like down the road, but I mean we can get into it right now. How many shirts do you have roughly?
I just did a count just because like. One of the projects I've always wanted to do is kind of make a collage of all the shirts that I've collected, and I finally was able to have some free time and do it. And the official count as of today is 246 different shirts.
Holy crap. What, so that photo you posted on Facebook where it has like, I mean, a bird's eye view of all the jerseys, was that part of your collage, or is that just like they're all folded nice and neat across, a huge space?
I just kind of laid the shirt down and took a photo of it and then just kind of cropped it into like a square.
Nice. I saw that and I was like, man, I wish I had thought of that instead of getting rid of most of my dodgeball shirts, just because like you want to hold on to it, but it takes up so much closet space. And
yeah, I don't even have, I probably have like maybe a third of them with me. The rest of them are back home in my parents' garage somewhere. I made sure they're like not donating them just because like, I don't know, just gives me like good memories, I guess.
Yeah, it's sentimental
when I look
value.
at the shirt or when I wear it.
Yeah, and I definitely understand. Have you ever been denied a shirt? I think you saw that question.
Did someone ask that?
Yeah, Joe, and I'm going to butcher his name, Joe Colella from Arsenal and Echo, number 56, out of San Diego.
Man, I know what. So, like, I always like the next best shirt, right? It's either like, oh man, that's so cool, like, how do I get one? And they're, it's either like, oh, we don't have any extras, or oh, do you have a jersey to trade with? And that's probably like a selfish thing about me is if I only have one of a jersey, I'm not giving that away. So
yeah, that's fair.
The only this would be like trading a shirt that I don't have an extra for.
I mean, there'll come a day when it's just like the NFL, where at the end of the game, players are trading off jerseys. These things are expensive, so hopefully we can find somebody that will dish them out cheaper. Because it'd be cool. It's so cool to do that. Like, just having other people's jerseys and seeing that kind of transition into dodgeball. Yeah, it's really neat.
Yeah, it wasn't even like when I first started getting dodgeball shirts, I didn't even have that mindset of like, I'm gonna try to collect as many dodgeball shirts as possible. It actually stemmed from like the first tournaments we would go to in Illinois, the NADA. And after every tournament, they would give you a shirt, and it was so cool. Like it was just like I was so proud of it. Like I wear it around everywhere, just because I don't know.
Because why not?
Just because, yeah, why not? Nice. It was cool.
Man, I'm glad you mentioned NADA, right? National.
Yeah.
What was it?
National Amateur Dodgeball Association,
Gotcha.
Which is still going strong.
I was curious about that. And that's one of the ones I've not, I kind of forgotten about and put in the back of my mind. And I wonder if that's where Dodgeball the movie got the idea for the National Dodgeball Association of America, like NADA. Like, they're making fun of it. I wonder if that's who they're playing off of.
Oh, man, I can try to give you, I guess, like a good history of that. But the Chicago people that are the generation before me can probably explain it better. But NADA formed before the movie, and then when the movie came out, like, that's when it like kind of just blew up. It's actually run by a suburban park district of Chicago called Schaumburg, and they have a ton of youth programs and whatnot, and they wanted to make a dodgeball program, and they kind of created the NADA, which honestly, if they would have kept going with it seriously, that could have been the organization we have today, but they didn't care enough. Anyways, what was I saying? Oh, good. Let's see. So the movie came out, and I don't want to give credit to the movie for me getting into the dodgeball, but it sort of was like, oh, dodgeball's in the movies. Like, that's cool. I know what that is. Like, I probably played it in gym class, but I played multiple sports in gym class and whatever. And so I didn't really think anything of it. And so my friend got a flyer for the NADA summer tournament in 2004. And they're like, yeah, we should check this out. This looks totally cool. We can like bring our own team and whatever. And when we got there was, I'm not even exaggerating, there was like 100 teams, and this is 2004. Nice. And they had multiple divisions. They had, they had a high school, they had youth, they had a men's C, they had co-ed, they had a men's B, a men's A, and I think even they had a division called Elite Division, which is kind of funny. So that was kind of like, yeah, that was kind of like my first spark of dodgeball, because it just blew my mind. Like, this is nothing I've ever seen before.
Well, I can attest to NADA. They've definitely been around for, I think, almost longer than 2004. And you're right, they were like I paid them as a Parks and Rec center / organization, and I think that was part of why they could not expand past that realm due to whatever tax codes that they had to follow under. And so it was such a frustrating thing because, when we started up in 2004 and 5 and 6, we're trying to find these organizations that are going to hook us up with sanctioning and kind of help us recruit and bolster our numbers. We found out that they were pretty much just, they stayed there. They had the national events, and it was just like, well, cool, F us, I guess. Like, we're kind of we're SOL for now. So it's funny because there's a really hilarious clip of Stephen Colbert back when he was on the Daily Show, meeting these people and playing dodgeball against kids, and I'll have to put a link to that.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
I didn't know that.
It's hysterical, but it just shows like they were there way before the NDL and all these other players, other players started to come onto the scene. So
it was like the first legit organization of dodgeball that I can think of. Not talking about like like rec leagues or open gyms or something.
Yeah, it's I think it's like a tie between them and the International Dodgeball Federation, which I was kind of talking over with Nicole, because they claim they've been around since 1996, 98. And then I guess 2004 they were like on the cusp of exploding because of the movie, but due to Hurricane Katrina, they ended up losing all their records, all their videos, so they say, and it just set them back. And then that's when the NDL came in and kind of took over. But
someone has those records somewhere.
You would think, right? I mean, it's not like it's all paper and analog back then. You'd think there's electronic copies, but I just think that's, I mean, not to sound like a jerk, but I think that's just too good of an excuse to kind of cop out like that. But okay, so your first experience with dodgeball then was back in 2004, and it was with foam then, right? Because that's what NADA used.
Yeah, that's what I grew up with, was 8.25 foam. And I'm rolling with like my best friends from like high school and growing up and whatever, and we play sports, so we think we're good, like we can hang.
Right.
And we get there and we just see all these teams, and we're just watching games, like waiting to play, and we're like, oh my god, what is this? And I guess it's been around for a few years, so people know how to play already. And like, basically we got dead last, but I just remember, like, so I mentioned like this was my first spark. I just remember watching like the men's division, and some of the players that I still play with on Task Force today, just watching them, and actually some of the old Chicago Vendetta players too, which you probably know, just watching them and just being in awe. And I was like, yes, I want to do this. I want to keep doing this, because it was, I was so used to like school sports and the whole routine and like conditioned practices and all this stuff. And for some reason, like, this was just like on our own, like we can do whatever we want. We can be whatever team we want. We can go do practices whenever we want. And I wanted to learn everything I could about the sport. It was such a mystery to me.
There's something very like pure about dodgeball. You just hop in and you play. And like you said, the rules aren't so strict right now that you have conditioning drills and practice and things that kind of suck the fun out of playing in sports as you get older. So I totally understand that.
Yeah, and I just like, I remember like we were already out or something in the high school division, and we were watching the men's, and I just remember, I don't know if you remember Brian Lowe, one of like the OGs that used to go to the NDL. He's from Chicago. I think I remember him, like he was like, it was like the championship or something. He was the last in, and he just took out like a whole team like no problem, and everyone went crazy. And like I didn't know anything like what was going on, but I knew it was awesome.
Nice. This wasn't the dude from Cheese and Crackers, was it?
I think that was like their amateur team name, Cheese and Crackers, because that was with like Brian Jenkins and Zach Tholen. I think Lowe was on that team, and Greg Cozzolino and Brad Rackow. Alan Fleming, like those were the OGs for Chicago.
Oh man, I'm such a terrible person. I keep getting Greg Cozzolino mistaken for crap. He plays in LA. He's oh geez, this is embarrassing. But like they have like the same stature, same look.
Oh, Jesse.
Yeah, Jesse Soto, right? That's Soto. Okay, yeah,
kinda. Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe
Jesse plays way more wild than Kaz though.
Yeah. Does Kaz still play or?
No,
he left the scene a while ago, right?
Yeah, he moved out to Las Vegas a long time ago, and every time we go to Vegas, like even when we had the first 2 elites there, he would come out. We actually needed a player for pinch the first Elite Vegas, and he came out and played, and he probably hasn't played in 2 years, but he's still got it.
Nice. Yeah, I mean, I'd have to see him side by side and realize how off I am, but again, it's been a long time. Many faces are a blur now. I'm starting to get older, but he reminds me of him every time I see Jesse. So I for the longest time I thought it was him. I was like, oh wow, one of the OGs are still around. But
that's funny.
Kind of pivoting a little bit. It's a little ironic that you started from foam and you ended up dead last, and now you're known as like one of the most vicious pinch players for 8.5. Like, that's kind of weird how that turned out, right? You ever think about that?
Every throw I make in pinch isn't vicious. It's with love. I make sure I let you know that I like you by throwing at you really hard.
Oh, nice. So you're like Kenny then, where if you hit somebody soft, it's because you hate that person. You don't respect them. You don't love them. So I guess.
Yeah.
It's like, wow, this burns. I may have internal bleeding. Glenn really loves me. This is great. I'm gonna go cough up a lung now.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. Hearing Kenny talk about pinch was kind of fun. I heard your guys' podcast. It takes a certain kind of crazy to play pinch 8.5.
It definitely does. So let's backtrack a little bit. Did you play in any sports prior to dodgeball? You kind of mentioned you played school sports, but like any organized leagues or like baseball, little league, basketball, football?
Yeah, I was like an outdoor kid. I love playing sports and doing athletic things, and I got into like t-ball. I didn't really like that. Too slow paced. I guess t-ball is what you would call it, right? Like little league or something. And then basketball. I really liked that because there was a lot of movement all the time. And then I got into football and I played that for 11 years. And I really liked that because it kind of helped me get mentally tough and physically tougher, I guess.
Right.
And it kind of disciplined me to kind of train for something that I go after. And all the sports that I've played, I kind of acquired what I do. I guess, how do you say it? I try to implement everything that I've learned from sports into dodgeball, just because I don't have a coach, I don't have a school program or something like that.
Right. Yeah, it's a lot of mental self-discipline that you can't just go, I'm going to go hop on, join a dodgeball clinic over the summer. I'm going to contact this coach. I'm going to go to this gym and practice and hone my craft. You have to take it upon yourself to train and practice and get into as many leagues as possible. And you have to have that desire to be better. You
have to find that drive.
Yeah.
You got to take it seriously.
Not only that, but you have to do it for a sport that's still, I would say, maybe not in its infancy, but it's in its teens, right? It's still coming along.
It's still in a primitive stage, I would say.
Yeah, it's still costs money to travel out. Still, sometimes get those raised eyebrows, like, oh, you play dodgeball, and then it's just one of those things where you have to decide you're going to be the best, and you got to train like it. It's not, oh, I played baseball for 10 years, so I'm naturally going to be good. That used to fly back in the day, not anymore, for sure.
Yeah, we're definitely still trying to figure out all the science behind it too, because we're still in that generation that hasn't really moved on yet. I mean, there's a couple like OGs, like I mentioned earlier, especially like some of the old NDL players that kind of moved on just because they started a life or something. But we're still figuring out like injuries, for example, like how long can a player even last, into their 30s or something.
Yep. The like torn labrums, that's become, at least as I've noticed, more of a reoccurring injury. I mean, it got Tim, got Paige. I think it got a couple other people. That's new. I think that's come from maybe pinching incorrectly or not conditioning your arm.
Who said that? Paige said that. It's not like because of the pinch throwing. It's just how you're throwing it is why your arm's messed up.
Yeah, I think Kenny went into that a little bit. Like you have to have the proper technique. You can't just go ham, your first try and expect your bones to be used to that if they're not. I mean, it's the same thing with throwing dodgeballs, like regular good old 8.5. I could go right now and go play some games, not even stretch, not even warm up, and I'll be okay. As long as I'm not going, all out for a couple of hours, because my body's used to that, versus somebody who's off the streets, they better warm up or stretch out, otherwise they're going to be hurting, and usually they are for several days afterwards. It's just a whole new, like you said, we're still figuring out the science behind it, and those that have been playing long enough understand the toll it takes and what you need to do to make sure you're not going to hurt yourself. So it's,
right, and like you kind of almost have to treat, like I know there's a lot of like young players that want to be like, yeah, dodgeball, I'm going to play like 4 nights a week, and especially like the two of the guys, like they came from Sky Zone, and they're all like really young 20s, and they're like, I'm going to play so much dodgeball, and I'm trying to encourage them, like, look, like this is not good for your arm. You need to treat your arm kind of like an MLB pitcher, where you need like 4 or 5 days rest after you've been throwing for a while. And they're starting to understand that now. But it's not just playing and throwing like for an hour or two at dodgeball practice. Like you have to strengthen your muscles with like, resistance bands, or like going to the gym and lifting weights and all that stuff. So which I don't think a lot of people are used to, because I'd say like most dodgeball players don't really have like a sports background, or maybe that's just me.
No, I'm glad you mentioned that, because that's my perception also. And when I'm talking to people like Kenny and Nicole, and I don't want to say some of the better players, because that just sounds mean, but some of the players that are, I guess, higher caliber, they have a sports background. They understand, like we kind of talked about earlier, where you have to have the discipline to go, I'm going to go to the gym and run, or I'm going to do, I don't know, yoga, or I'm going to practice with sports bands, because they just had that's what they know. Versus a lot of people that came into dodgeball, that might be the first sport they've ever played.
Yeah.
They fall in love with it, sure, but they don't understand, I'm not getting good right away, I'm going to quit now. Or I hurt my arm, or I don't throw as hard as Ketchum, so I'm quitting. And it sucks to see that, because we're at that point now where, okay, maybe you didn't come from a sports background, but if you want to hang, you gotta act like it. You gotta put the work in.
Yeah, that's what's great about like all the vets in dodgeball is like, they encourage the younger players, keep sticking around. Like it's all about court time. Trust me. Like you'll get beat, but the more you see that, the more you're gonna find a weakness or something in a player or in yourself.
Yep, just stick it through. What kind of routines do you go through, or like you mentioned that you alluded that you might have some workouts that you kind of do to help you stay conditioned. What are those?
Yeah, so, I used to think I was invincible too, like back when I was young. Like I could play dodgeball as much as I could, and then I figured out like my arm was killing me, so I had to change up my routine. Maybe when I was like 24, 25, and I wanted to make sure like I could play dodgeball like well into my 30s. I didn't want my arm to crap out before I was 30. So, I kind of developed a routine of like, I don't care about like a league. I don't care about winning a league or an open gym. Like I'm going to utilize this time to prepare for a major tournament, right? So like if I have a tournament coming up in like 3 weeks or something, I'll kind of do like a normal routine of, one day I'll go to the gym and lift weights, but I won't I won't go to like bench 400 pounds or something. I'm going to do something that works for me, meaning like I want to be able to be quick. So I work on explosive lifting. So I'll do like dumbbells or squats or something, but I'll do lightweight, but I'll kind of like, how do I explain it? Like I'll go down slow and then bring it up really fast to be able to kind of be quick like that.
Right.
Develop the quickness. And then another day, just for like endurance, like I'll go play basketball or something, or like I'll go do ladders or like box jumps or something. And then, I'll have a day of rest so my muscles can heal. And then, I try to do days where I don't go play dodgeball, but instead I'll do long toss, meaning like kind of throw a baseball as far as you can, just kind of stretch that strength out. What else? Yeah, I try to not play dodgeball like 2 days in a row because that'll kill you. It'll take you forever to heal. I try to play dodgeball no more than twice a week. And if like a tournament's coming up, then I'll make sure I have like 5 days in between like when I've played to like an elite tournament so that my arm is healed.
That's crazy how it's maybe for us older gentlemen and women, it's more about self-preservation at this point. Because I remember, thinking I was invincible also when we started playing. I was 21, 22 when I started, and I could go, 8 o'clock p.m. to 3 a.m. nonstop and recover just fine after a couple days. And I can go back-to-back tournaments when they came up. And like, oh man, I could do this forever. Sports, yay, I'm great. But now it's like, an elite tournament will just knock the crap out of you. I cannot, of all the things I've done in life, I don't think there's a soreness that ever matches elite or a tournament in dodgeball soreness. And so it's like, I'm going to take care of myself now and make sure I stretch out and maybe even do crazy things like take Epsom salt baths just so I can recover, so I can play for another 6 months, another couple of years. I want to get as much out of this lifestyle as I can. And it's that's just the level of intensity that it's risen. But your workout routine sounds pretty cool.
We're insane. We play for 12 hours of like nonstop dodgeball. That is not healthy at all.
Speaking of going back to the science behind dodgeball, like I wear my Fitbit sometimes, and I'm just like blown away by where my heart rate's been, how it just goes up and down, and how long it's for how long, and just the calories that are just expend. And someday we'll all look back 20, 30 years from now when the dodgeball players of the future are wearing helmets and they've got all this conditioning, they've got all this stuff, and they'll look at us like, those guys are crazy. Like, those guys are insanely hardcore. Kind of like how we look at football players back in the day when they wore their crappy little leather helmets, and you wonder, how do people not die? Like, I think that's what it's going to be like for us down the road.
I don't know how dodgeball is going to evolve because, like, you think about all the injuries in dodgeball, and what are they? A rolled ankle or like a torn labrum. It is so rare when someone gets hurt from actually getting hit by a dodgeball. Obviously anyone can get hit wrong in the temple and kind of like be concussed. But like, man, the only injuries I've ever really seen are like from falling into a wall or something.
Right. That's a good point.
I've seen like torn retinas and stuff, but that's really rare too.
I think just because of the whole concussion thing, I wouldn't be surprised if you saw helmets, like maybe hockey style with a plexiglass visor. If it's plexiglass, I don't know, but that would be my guess, maybe.
Man, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know if I don't know.
It's out there.
Yeah.
Could you imagine, take 2004 Steve and 2004 Glenn, you playing in NADA and me playing in Tucson, and just show them the elite highlight video from the East Coast, right, that Dominic made, and just show them that, and just imagine how their minds would have been blown where they see people like Andrew Catcham throwing just stupid fast, or people catching ridiculous reflexes, and seeing how close the courts are, but also seeing the caliber of players. When I played in 2004, and I was looking at like the quote unquote NDL first pros, they were all beer-bellied 30, 40-year-old people that are not athletic looking at all, right? They like, I mean, I can get into that too later, but they're just people that like came off the streets, like, you know, oh yeah, dodgeball, okay, cool, how hard can it be? But show 2004 Glen Steve now, like, that's got to get you like, wow, that's an incredible advancement. People are wearing knee pads, people are wearing throwing sleeves, some are wearing goggles. That's crazy. Like, I wish I could see it through that perspective, just to show like how much of the advancement has gone. So when we think dodgeball 10, 20 years from now, I wouldn't be surprised if it just completely blew us away even now, right? Like, we're still growing.
Yeah, you know, like, man, like, okay, so back then, I used to think like those beer belly players were incredible players. And then obviously, like, evolving with everyone, we're kind of at a much higher level, and you can't really ever go back to, you know, what you were like when you first started anymore. You see a different speed now. But man, like, we're at this age right now where we kind of like, you know, we're looking at the next generation, and you see, oh my God, like you look at players like Mike McGee or Xander Simos, and you're like, man, these guys are so fortunate to have all of these like incredible veterans, like, to kind of like train them at an early age like this, and they're already like just prodigies.
And they're already monsters. It's really cool. Like, I get excited for them because, like, you guys didn't have to go through all the BS between, you know, what me and Tillman's call the barnstorming days, right? You come into a product that's looking really good already, has a lot to go, but you guys are so fortunate to come into now where. Yeah,
I mean, that's what we're working towards. Is we're working towards setting up for the next generation.
Yep. So going back to the barnstorming days. So, 2004, NADA. When did you enter the NDL scene?
Oh man, okay, so let me think back. So, 2004, I found dodgeball, and like I wanted to keep playing dodgeball, but I was still I was in school, so couldn't really play dodgeball that much, and they only had seasonal tournaments, meaning like they had one in winter, and spring, and summer, and fall. And then eventually, like, just from going to these tournaments, we found out we like would meet other teams, and they'd be like, yeah, we go play at this church. Like, yeah, there's usually like this tournament that happens in blah, blah, blah city, and we would go check that out. And, you know, we just eventually started figuring out how to travel to get to these tournaments. And how I got into the NDL, I guess, was, I don't know, I think, I'm trying to remember, like, I don't know if I Google searched dodgeball. Like, I wanted to find more tournaments, so I think I stumbled upon the NDL online. And, you know, you look at the NDL, and it's just a crazy good website, right? You're already captured just from the website, and you're like, oh my God, there's professional dodgeball. Yeah. Yeah. Everyone's been there. And then I saw, like, there was a Chicago team, and I was like, oh my God, that's Brian Jenkins and Zach Tholen and Greg Cozzolino. Like, I play with these guys all the time. And I'm looking at my friends, and we're like, we have to go to this. But we're all like 19. Like, we don't have any money. And we're in Chicago, and it's all the way in Las Vegas. And we're like, oh my God, we have to go to this. And it was just me and my friend Kyle, and we signed up. We were like, screw it, like, we're going. I don't care if we sign up as freelancers, we're going. So that's what we did. We just signed up as freelancers, and that's how we found the NDL.
Nice. So if you found thenDL.com, that's 2007, 2008 timeframe?
Yeah, it was 2008. That was my first NDL.
Nice. Yeah, I mean, it was still from 2004 to 12, I consider, was when it was decent. From 2007 to 11 was like its peak. It was on the ups.
Oh yeah, then. That was like my second spark, I guess, because my first spark was actually seeing dodgeball for the first time, and then like being at the NDL is exactly like how it is at Elite Nationals, there's just so many teams, like so much dodgeball, so many courts. And like, I just remember like playing on this free agent team, and I want to say like we signed up for the Stinger division, and one of like the first teams we played was like, you know, young Rise of Brutality, and one of them just rocked me in the face with a stinger, and I was like, this is dodgeball. This is what I want to do with my life, basically. I wasn't even mad. Like, this is exactly what dodgeball is. I need to be a part of this somehow.
Man, that's a special kind of person that takes a stinger to the face from a Rise player and says, this is where I want to be. Like, yeah, this is, I can't think of anywhere else I'd rather be right now than right here in this moment, getting just completely smashed in the face. Sign me up for more.
Yeah, and like, I just, like that whole first experience, like, I was on a free agent team. We weren't that good, but my God, like, we would watch all these games, and like, I remember watching, like, you know, just some of the names, like, you probably know, like Rise of Brutality and the Janitors and Mixed Plate Crew and Triple A.
Yeah, Triple A.
And oh my God, like, that was so exciting to watch all these matches, because everyone was crowding around watching this, and it was just incredible dodgeball that like I've never seen before. It was the highest level of dodgeball, and I needed to be a part of it.
That's awesome. I mean, at the time, it was definitely the highest level of dodgeball, but like, you take your lowest, not to be mean, but take your lowest performing team in Elite right now, and they could probably mop the floor with anybody from. Oh my God, yes. Right? Like, you watch those old clips of, you can even watch like the Rise of Brutality AAA All-American Apostles, for anybody that wanted to know what AAA meant. You can watch like the 2008 or 2007 finals, and you're like, these guys are terrible. Like, I'm looking at, like, yes. What were we doing back then?
It's, man, if you've ever watched like really old dodgeball videos, because I definitely have, like, and especially like if I find old video of myself, I'm like, my God, I am terrible.
It's so fun to watch that. There's a running joke where I used to play with the watch on, because I was just, who cares? I'm playing dodgeball, I'm wearing a watch, right? And I thought I was good back then. This is like 2009, 2010 time frame, and watching me back then, I was just like, oh God, what are you doing, man? It's just awful. Yeah. And so like, anytime I mess up or I do something really stupid, which is unfortunately a lot lately, somebody like Joe Fernandez or Brett will be like, Steve, what time is it? Because they're just, you know, referencing back in the day when I was awful, and I just get all hurt inside. It's so fun to watch like older versions of you, and you're just like, man, you thought you were hot stuff back then, and you're nothing. I could take you out with one hand behind my back now. It's always a good feeling too, just to know that you've grown and haven't stayed stagnant.
Yeah, like even like watching yourself throw, like, yeah, you know, I would watch old videos of me, and like, I'm like, what am I doing? I don't even have any range at all. How am I even throwing that?
Like, why am I even playing? How have I not been taken out by now?
Yeah,
that's funny. So you go to NDL, and you see all these amazing players. You see, like, holy crap, there is a following of dodgeball. There's an energy. It's happening, right? It's going places. We're gonna all go back home. We're gonna tell our friends all about it. We're gonna get all kinds of juiced and whatnot, and super excited. Did you participate in the professional tryouts, and you made the team, right? You mentioned Chicago Chicago Vendetta.
Yeah. So like, just like everyone else, like, we were sucked into like the illusion of professional dodgeball at the NDL. And, you know, I wanted to do that, like, because I wanted to play with, you know, the guys that I looked up to, Jenkins and Thulin and Kaz and Lowe. And, you know, they had like the tryouts or whatever. Like, you had to pin the number on your back.
Yeah.
You remember that?
Oh, yeah.
Like, while you were playing. Like, God forbid you land on the floor and that thing, like, stabs you. But they were looking to like fill their roster, and like they knew who me and Kyle were, so they brought us on, and I thought that was the coolest thing ever. And that was like the first kind of mentorship that I had in dodgeball was those guys. And just, you know, just seeing how they play and like how we worked as a team was just a total eye-opening experience. And you know, I think we ended up like third or something in the pro division. But after that weekend, like, I just wanted more of it.
Right.
I wanted to just do what I could to build the sport. And I didn't know what it was I needed to do. But that was part of, like, you know, thinking strategically and creatively to try to build the sport. Whatever that meant, whatever that was back then. I think the one thing that sucked, like, I guess might go on a tangent with the NDL a little bit, but you know, one thing that sucked that everyone could probably relate to who was back in that day was, you know, the players are always like, oh man, we need to do more, like, we need to have more tournaments or something. And Prentice he would always like be like, yeah, we'll do it. And then like 3 or 6 months would pass and nothing would be happening. Oh yeah, we'll do it later. And then like we'll be like, how about now? And you know what? And then I'll be like, you know what? Let's just talk about it at the next NDL. So it just became this like once a year tournament, which sucked. And like you can ask any player in the NDL. Like we were all mad. We were all like, this is stupid. Like we're paying way too much money. And just a little history lesson for all the like young players that are listening to this. Like if you think you're paying too much for Elite right now, imagine this. Each player, not team, each player paid $185 per division per player. Okay, imagine that. And we only probably got like 5 single elimination matches or 5 best of 3 matches, and then we would have a single elimination tournament. It wasn't even double elimination. So everyone was pissed off at that, especially. And just like the pro day wasn't that great. Like they tried to do different like structure of like some weird point system, and nobody ever wanted to do the pro day because there was like a rule restriction on the amateur divisions. Like do you remember this, Steve? Like,
oh yeah, no more than 3 pros.
You can only have like 3 pros on an amateur team, and it's like I can't play with my friends anymore, basically. And I get like their structure. They wanted the pro players to bring in more teams, but that was difficult when it was in Las Vegas every year. I can't get my friends from Chicago to fly every year to this. So that was another thing that everyone hated. And just like we would film matches, and Prentice would be like, he wouldn't really trust anybody with the footage because he didn't want to lose it or something, or have it be stolen or something. So every year we would film things and nothing would get published. So everyone was pissed off about that too. I mean, and like just hearing, like, he would never listen to the players. Like he had a special like leadership council or whatever, like kind of like how we have the different regions almost. And we would all kind of like come together and kind of say like how to progress dodgeball, and he wouldn't absorb anything from the players. And you know, another thing that people didn't really like. And you know, every year people would complain about the NDL. And finally, and in between, like, I would try to figure out things like how to build dodgeball. Like, I didn't need the NDL to build dodgeball, basically. Like, I wanted to run my own tournaments and figure out how to do that. And that was terrifying. Because I have no, like, event planning experience. And, like, I get nervous when I speak in front of a large crowd. But I knew I had to do it. And then finally... And Prentice actually thought I was doing that as a mutiny almost, like I was starting my own thing against him, which is kind of hilarious. Like, no, dude, I'm trying to build dodgeball. And then finally, like, this is the reason why Elite exists now. It's because of this, because of all that stuff I just said. Where Mark, you know, was kind of like, F it, like, I'm going to do it this way. And everybody loved it.
It's funny because I haven't had too much of an opportunity to delve into the NDL and what went wrong. And I'm not trying to make that an essential focus, but I'm more than happy to kind of talk about it just to give people that who are listening who have no idea what the NDL even is, or may not even know who Ed Prentice is, just some insight and kind of back you up on some of those, because I was there too, experiencing those same frustrations. One night I Googled dodgeball and I found dodgeblogger or something.com, and it was a message board, and it would just talk about all the major dodgeball events. And then one day, lo and behold, the first ever National Dodgeball World Championship and Convention in Las Vegas, hosted at Caesar's Palace, came up, $25,000 cash purse, right? Mm-hmm. And it was, to give some insight about Ed Prentice, he ran a branding company. So there's a reason why his stuff looks so crisp, because he was in marketing for a company called Brainco. And of course, if you're teaching branding and you're teaching graphic design, your stuff's going to look crisp, right? So, I didn't figure this out until after 2005. But anyway, very well put together package, brought a lot of people out, very expensive, great. Oh, guess what? The tournament itself isn't at Caesar's Palace. It's actually at this place called Home Courts in Boulder, which is like 40 minutes south of the freaking strip, right? But, we had a panel there, so that was cool. So we talked about how to sponsor your team. We had a referee clinic. It was very, very legitimate for the first time. Okay, but you paid a crap load of money, like you said. You're talking about 185. It was way more before that, if you can even imagine that kind of madness, right? So there was that, and then it just kind of, like you said, it kind of just tapered off. There was always, we'll do that later. We'll talk about this later. We'll get into sanctioning later.
And it was frustrating.
Oh, it was so frustrating, because you're like, I need help now, and I needed help 2 years ago. And, we talked, the most we can squeeze out was a couple of tour stops. And I'll say this, to the NDL's credit, they really did help juice up the competition in Arizona by, I don't want to say hijacking, but by kind of combining the National Dodgeball League with what we call the Grand Canyon State Games, which is a biannual event every winter and summer, where dodgeball just so happened to be an event. And I think I made the second one, maybe the first or second one, and that's where I met this individual named Mike Harrington, who really loved dodgeball in Phoenix. And so we kind of talked about it in between seasons and whatnot, and eventually, I think through him, he got the NDL to come over and check this event out and take over. And so I don't know if you were around, or if it was around, I should say, when you came into the scene. The point system, you can play in a tour stop and acquire ranks and points through your participation, how you place. And so we kind of incorporated that into the Grand Canyon State Games. So instead of just, Team Evil coming in and beating people, now you had Rise of Brutality, or the team that preceded them, 619 coming down, AAA coming down, the Janitors coming down. And we're like, wait a minute, these teams from California are coming in kicking our butts. Like, we need to step up our game some. And so Arizona kind of rose. So for all of its, shortcomings and shortfalls, the NDL really did do some good. But I mean,
no, and like, we will always respect them for setting that bar for like competitive dodgeball. Like, that was the first. But just, when we started building Elite, like, he just saw that as a threat more than anything.
Well, he saw.
And it was just,
oh, go ahead.
Oh, go ahead. No, you go.
I was gonna say, he saw anything as a threat. Like, you talk to him about, hey, we want to set up a tournament, we want to set up a tour stop, we want to do XYZ, and it'd always be, we'll talk about that later. But oh man, if you started something by yourself and it actually got traction, he came down on you so fast. And I remember being
because he wasn't used to competition. Like, the NDL was the only thing.
Yeah,
he never like felt like he was threatened by anybody.
Yeah, and if he did, he put it down right away with you can't play in this league, or you'll be banned. And I mean,
and then the players came together, and the power of the people.
Yeah, and to Mark's credit, he did try many times to help before he finally said, you know what, I can get the insurance myself, I can get the venues myself. If I put together a really good package, people are going to come to play dodgeball. They're not beholden to one specific brand or entity. They're beholden to the sport. So Elite 8 comes along, is, from what I understand, because I wasn't able to attend, unfortunately, it was a great event. It was a ton of fun. It became the Elite 12, then it became the regional, I think it was just like the West Coast maybe, I could be wrong, but it started taking off, and as it took off, and the NDL saw a huge threat, made the silly decision to say, hey, if you play in Elite, you cannot play in NDL anymore, and look how that turned out. So
to give you a little history about how I met Mark.
Yes, I was going to get into that. Perfect.
This will lead into like just kind of how we developed Elite, I guess.
Perfect.
But I actually said this at our first banquet at Las Vegas. I'm not sure if you were there, but I kind of explained the story of how we met. And so it's 2010, right? 2010 NDL, like peak of its time. And I was kind of like, Prentice kind of knew like I was passionate about dodgeball, and he kind of wanted me to part of his like leadership council and stuff like that, which I don't even know, like which meant nothing kind of. But I was also kind of in charge of the Chicago Vendetta too. Like Jenkins kind of delegated that task to me, which is like really honorable. But so it's Pro Day 2010, and so the way the teams, so if you had a full roster, then you couldn't pick any players that were trying out. And we got like one of the last picks or something, and it was between, so we needed one more for our roster for the Chicago Vendetta, and it was between this guy Randall, I don't know if you know him, he's a tall guy, like, oh man, another OG dodgeball player.
Maybe if I saw him.
I'm sure like the LA people know who he is, but and then it was him and then Mark, and Mark I'd never met before. And he's wearing like a shirt that says hot sauce on it. And I'm looking at Mark, I'm like, yeah, this guy right here. And so I walk over to him, I'm like, hey man, my name's Glenn. What's your name? He's like, Mark. I'm like, cool, do you want to come play with us in the Chicago Vendetta? He's like, hell yeah. And Mark's like, again, like just super passionate about dodgeball. He didn't care. He just wanted to play. And we went through that pro day like so good, like we gelled so well as a team. And Mark was even like, at some point he was like, guys, I'm not that good, but I'm here to like support you guys. And that was like so cool. I don't know, but you know, like he just so totally selfless, you know.
Right.
And he's like, it's okay, let's just, and Jenkins, you know, the captain, he was just kind of like, no worries, like let's just take this one game at a time, we'll figure out a good system. And we found this system where Mark was like super quick. So if you remember like the NDL Pro Day, how the game was played was 4-on-4, and each team started with one ball and one ball was in the center. And our strategy was Mark would sprint up, grab that middle ball, and you know, I would blast whoever was throwing at Mark. And we were just kind of like a crazy team where we would always be doing suicides and stuff. We were just kind of like really overpowering like that because we were young and full of energy, and we ended up actually winning that whole tournament.
Nice.
Pro Day, that was my first win. So then after that, like obviously made friends with Mark, and we just kind of would talk dodgeball like throughout the year and just talk about like, man, we could do so much for dodgeball. NDL could do so much for dodgeball, all this stuff, but they're not doing it. And then like 2011 comes along, and it's still the same old stuff, same old complaining from all the players. And 2011 passed, and Mark was like, dude, I can't do this anymore. Like I'm gonna take a stand. Like I want to do it right. I don't like these restrictions. I don't like this kind of like controlling feeling. So he's like, you know what? I'm just going to host a tournament and call it like the Elite Dodgeball or something. Elite Dodgeball tournament for like top level players. And I wasn't there for the first one, but when he had it in December, because the NDL championships would happen in August. So we hosted this tournament in December, and that was the first Elite tournament. And he brought like all of the original California teams, like Headhunters. I think like Team Evil was there, and then like Rise, and before Doom, it was Syndicate. And, you know, he was like, you know what, I don't care about the money. Like, we'll just take all the registration and put it towards the expenses, like the rental of the gym, the balls, and like the medals. And if anything's left over, like, we'll have a cash prize. Because that's the one thing that the NDL also didn't have, is cash prizes. Just a little history lesson. So after that tournament, I can't remember if there was a co-ed Division II. I think it was just open. I have to ask Mark. But
it was just open. Co-ed didn't come for a while.
Okay, so it was just open, and they played like as much dodgeball as they could in whatever rental time they had, and everybody was like, yes, I want more. Like, this is what, because all the players want is as much of dodgeball as possible, right, against like good teams, and they can play with their team with no restrictions. And everyone loved it, and Mark was telling me about this. I'm like, dude, yes, like, this is awesome. Like, I want to come out to this. So he held another one in, I want to say like the spring, like April or something. And I actually flew out and played with Adrenaline Rush for that. And it was just like everything. And this is 2012. And I just loved it. I'm like, dude, this is exactly what we need to do for dodgeball. And I was like, what if we go back this year at the NDL and kind of tell Prentice, like, look, this is what we need to do. Because it wasn't just playing, like, we were filming our games. Like, if you look back on the YouTube channel for Elite, like, the first, like, 5 videos, like, are really, really crisp, like, really cool. I was like, yes, this is everything. We need to do this. And so we wanted to take this idea to Prentice and be like, look, like, we need to build dodgeball like this, have tournaments outside of it, whatever, like, kind of like how Elite is right now with the regions and the series and leading up to a national championship. And he wasn't having it. He's just like, nope, like, Mark just like wants to start his own thing. Like, he doesn't want to, you know, basically saw it as a threat, like it'll die or something like that. And that year sucked. Just my whole experience of that last year at NDL 2012 sucked because like like my flight was delayed. Like, I missed a whole day of dodgeball on Friday, came in Saturday, we got whooped, and then Sunday, like the pro day, like that's supposed to be the best day, it was also horrible. And then like we didn't even get that many games, and then he decided to want to do like an exhibition screw-on game for just footage for like 2 hours, and then I actually like tore my meniscus that year.
Oh,
I was like, you know what, I'm done with this. Mark, let's do this. So it was right after the NDL, and I'm like, look, like, I want to do this in Chicago, this Elite tournament. And he was like, yeah, no problem, like, I'll fly out and help do it too. So we held the first Midwest, well, we called it the Midwest Elite Dodgeball, I think, but it was held in Chicago, and it happened in November. So that's like how much of a turnaround it was. And, you know, we have a good like base in Chicago at the time, and 6 teams came out, and we did the same structure as his first 2 Elite tournaments, and we're like, okay, everybody loved it, like, we're on to something here. Like, why don't we, you know, and then we even filmed like that day, and Mark actually, like, after that tournament, he showed me how to use like the video editing program Final Cut Pro. He's like, look, like, because I told him, like, hey man, like, I can try to edit videos, like, I do this kind of for dodgeball anyways, like, I like making highlight videos. He's like, sure, like, here, take my laptop, like, just if you want to edit matches, like, this is how you do it. And we just kind of, you know, we wanted to keep doing that. So that's when Mark and I kind of started, was 2012, and we just kind of kept building from there.
That's awesome. And I wanted to kind of comment on you coming onto the Elite scene, because for me, you know, I was fortunate to participate in the first West Coast round 2013 Elite tournament, and I think that's when you said you played with Adrenaline Rush, and I remember seeing you there. I was like, that's kind of a big deal, because this is Glenn, like, he's supposed to be no offense, in Ed Prentice's back pocket. Like, that is somebody that I never thought would be here right now. So that's kind of signaling a lot of things that's going on.
Well, yeah, I mean, like, if you get to know me, Steve, like, I'm always real, and I'm always challenging people, and I'm always questioning things. I did it with Prentice, and like I do it with everybody else too. Nice.
Well, I mean, it worked. And real quick, I mean, kudos to Mark, I'll absolutely. But I know Vince also has a role in this too, and I think he kind of gets, I don't know, forgotten, because everybody's like, Mark is awesome, which he is, obviously. But, you know, to quick interject, Vince also, I'm sure had a lot to do with it.
Vince has been like an ace with, like, he won't like run tournaments so much, but he is like an ace on social media, and, like, you know, building the word of dodgeball through social media with, like, whatever. Like, the most recent thing we did was the clutch grips. Like, that was brilliant.
That was pretty cool.
Yeah.
I just wanted to kind of just real quick, a little footnote there, but yeah, when you came on board, I felt like, cool, Glenn is bringing the North into the fold, so to speak, right? And at that point, I kind of knew, like, the NDL was for sure, like, there's no coming back, because 2013 was just an abysmal tournament. Like, I thought 2012 was bad. 2013 was just awful.
Well, here's the thing, man. Like, a lot of people that don't know this is, like, we wanted to just do our thing. Like, we wanted to build Elite, like, the way we saw dodgeball, and we never wanted to be in the way of any other tournament. And, you know, we would make sure, like, okay, there's a tournament this weekend, we can't have it. Like, we can't have our tournament that weekend. Like, we got to look ahead. And, like, people, you know, this was during the, like, Elite versus NDL time. And people were like, oh, man, I don't know what to sign up for. Like, you know, do I sign up for the NDL or do I sign up with you guys? And we were always like, dude, we don't care. Like, play it both. Like, it's cool.
We're not going to hold that against you.
Because, you know, me and Mark were like, we'll just let them figure it out for themselves. Like, we know the NDL sucks. Like, they'll figure it out. Like, we don't have to tell people that it sucks.
Not only that, but you're not going to penalize people for going with the NDL, having a tank, and then coming back on board to Elite.
And their downfall, the NDL apprentice would be like, you know, if you're with us, you're banned from playing Elite Dodgeball, and everyone, like, was like, what the F?
Right. See ya.
Yeah.
That's what you, I mean, that's how I took it. I didn't even think twice when I played Elite. I was like, oh, this is clearly a better product. It's the future. I gave you, man, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. No, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10, 11, 12. I gave you 8 years of going to Vegas to play in dodgeball, and I was a pro for the longest time, and I helped coordinate events, and I helped recruit, and I backed you up. But, you know, the fact that you're pulling this after everything is just garbage. So later, you know, that was my whole stance, and I have not looked back since, unless it's for discussions like this, of course, to appreciate the past. But
you know, Elite, it's become a lot of things for me. Like, obviously, it's like an opportunity to play against better players, but it's kind of like also my tool to express my creativity. Because you know, like, what I love doing is I love editing videos. Like, I try to, like, inspire people that way. Like, I always want to do something cool or something different that hasn't been done before, and Elite allows me to do that.
So, speaking of those videos and why your shirt collection is partially so huge, I mean, you received jerseys from everybody. I mean, I myself handed you one as a thank you for all the work that you'd put into for, I think it was like the 2013 year for the 2014 banquet.
Oh my God. Yeah, I mean, I'll admit it, like, I was trying not to cry.
Yeah, no, like, I remember seeing that look in your eyes.
Nowhere.
Yeah, you had that look in your eyes, like, you're just like one tear from a waterfall. Like, you were holding it in. Just
that was a tough year too. Like, I lost my job, and, like, I didn't even want to go to nationals. I was in Showdown too. Like, I was like, Mark, I have no money. Like, I don't care. Like, and it was just like, it was overwhelming. Like, even running tournaments and playing in them, like, my first time doing that. And, this is how awesome the dodgeball community is. Like, Mark and Zarin got in the picture too, and they were like, dude, we want you here. We need you here. Like, let us pay for your ticket. No problem. Don't even worry about it. And that was just like, oh my God. I don't even know how to, like, thank you guys.
Yeah, it's incredibly moving how awesome the dodgeball community can be. Like they pull through for you for all the headaches and irritations that people can give you. They also will pick you up when you're down, and it's incredible to finally have something that encompasses all of that and doesn't choke it out, is not threatened by other perceived competition, is down to support, down to help elevate everybody. It's just incredible, and kind of a good segue into USA Dodgeball and everything that's going on with that. Do you have I don't want to say, do you have any thoughts on that? Because, like, everybody has thoughts, but what are you looking forward to the most with that?
So
let's get off the NDL for a little bit.
Well, okay. Man, I don't even know where to begin. Well, first of all, like, my next goal in life is to play internationally. I know, like, this upcoming World's Tournament is in Hollywood. That's great, but, like, I want to go play in, like, New Zealand or Hong Kong or Singapore or, Ireland or Europe or whatever. As far as, like, oh my God, my thoughts on, like, the international scene. So when we were focused on building Elite, I'm not sure when the WDBF started. Do you know?
2011, 2012.
Okay.
Maybe late 2010.
Okay, because I'm trying to think of the timelines here, because I remember, like, international, like, USA Dodgeball was created. I know, like, at the beginning of Elite too, so I was like, oh, this is so cool. Like, this is perfect. We're all going to grow together. And let's see, like, while we were building Elite, like, I think Bill Fair was kind of in charge of the USA stuff. Like, he wanted to build a USA team. And what was the first WDBF? Was it Hong Kong or Singapore?
It was like a invitational event in New Zealand where
so that was the first one. Okay, so, like, I saw that, and I remember, like, the USDO was posting, like, yo, we're having this tryout process for Team USA going to New Zealand, and there wasn't really that much information about it, but I knew I wanted to, like, try out for it. But there was only, like, they had qualifier tournaments, but, like, they were always in, like, Arizona or something. So I couldn't travel to that, but they accepted, like video highlights or something. And, I guess I was kind of, like, naive a little bit, kind of like the NDL when it first started. And, the more I got sucked into, like, the USDO, the more I kind of figured out what it was really like. And, like, I guess, like, they were doing the selection process, like, in the spring, and, like, the New Zealand tournament is, like, what, like, August or October or something? And each, like, month they would announce who a new player was, and Bill reached out to me and asked me if I was interested in going to New Zealand. I was like, yeah. So he's like, can you make this? I'm like, yes. And, they announced me to be on the USA team, and I was like, oh my God, this is so cool. And I was like, so what's the next steps? Like, what do we do with flights and hotels and all that stuff? And he's like, don't you have money for that? I'm like, what are you talking about? That wasn't very clear on that. And he's like, no, you got to pay for your own way. I'm like, well, I can't come up with $5,000 in, like, a month. So I was like, I can't go. I'm sorry, man. And then New Zealand happened, and I knew something was off, and I know I'm not the only one, because I know, like, I think the following year was in Hong Kong, right? after New Zealand.
Yes.
And
I believe so.
I remember like Bill wanted to do this whole weird structure requirement of, you know, if you want to have a qualifier, you got to have this many players registered. And, you know, the dodgeballers would be like, that's not realistic. And where we're from, like, we can do this. Like, we can utilize the Detroit Cup as a, you know, like scouting thing or something. And he was like, no, it's got to be this way. So at that point, like, I was like, I don't want to deal with this. Like, I need to focus on just building our structure for our country, like, of dodgeball. Like, we still got to build a foundation, meaning elite dodgeball. So I kind of like stepped away from the international scene, and Mark wasn't really into it either. But we knew something was off, and we kind of waited for the players to kind of figure that out too. And then the whole thing happened with, you know, people not wanting to try out for USDO just because of the leadership they didn't want to follow.
Yeah, I mean, kind of talked about this with Nicole, and without trying to insinuate or pin any one thing on one person. It's organizations, it would seem, and this is the case with NDL, like, you have to make mistakes. And whether you've received good counsel and you still make the mistake anyway, or you're just completely not prepared for the outcome, you make mistakes so that you can improve upon them, or somebody else will. And that seems to be that was obviously the case with Elite. That may or may not be the case with USA Dodgeball. But yeah, I mean, it's, without, again, trying to get too into the weeds about it, because it definitely has taken a turn for the better a lot faster too. And this is another thing that I realized when I was talking with Nicole is, you know, it took from 2004, 2005 to 2013 for somebody to finally get it right? Mm-hmm. On the international front, it took let's say 11 to 2008 to really get it right. So I believe like there's like a timeline for everything. And then if you just look at how fast and how awesome these improvements have been, you know, it's definitely headed in the right direction, but it had to start somewhere. And I can understand.
And I have the same respect for Bill Fair, even though I've never really talked to him. Kind of like Prentice, like, he set the bar. Like, he was the first to try to do international dodgeball.
Yeah, he had that vision.
But again, like, he didn't listen to the players. He didn't care about the players. And, you know, people would reach out to us, Elite, and be like, why aren't you guys doing this? And we're like, dude, we're so focused on just trying to build Elite. Like, it's so much work already. Like, we need to have like a real structure, like a real board in place or something. And finally, like, you know, Jake and Mark took the initiative of creating, you know, the new Team USA Dodgeball, and wanted to incorporate like a whole board of like the leaders of dodgeball. Like, they picked up, you know, Felix Prony, who's the president of NCDA. Like, you look at the NCDA, and they are the ultimate recruiting process for dodgeball right now.
Oh, yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, all those college clubs, like, they're bringing in the freshmen and getting them interested in dodgeball. And then you look at Kate Currens, who runs, like, the Social Boston Sports, who, like, knows a ton of rec leagues. And then you got Alex Benepe, who's, you know, in charge of Sky Zone, which is huge. And they wanted to create this board and like create a real structure for Team USA. And there's no better 5 that are leading the way.
Yeah, that's exciting. So earlier you said that you do want to make Team USA. Does that mean that you're down for foam? I've never really asked where your thoughts are on foam or.
Yeah, like I want to make Team USA. Like, that's my next goal. Like, that'd be cool to like play with a bunch of great players and play against like some of the best in the world. Like, that'd be really cool. As far as like foam, I mean, that's what I grew up with.
Right.
The 7-inch, like, I've only really competed with it like maybe like under 10 times, because the only places that play 7-inch foam are Canada whenever we would go, and then they would have a couple Dodgeball Nation tournaments in the Midwest, and then like Minnesota also plays like 7-inch foam heavily. 7-inch foam, it kind of works for me because I don't have a huge wind up when I throw. I'm kind of like a quick thrower, so I don't, when you're throwing foam, you don't really need to put a lot of force behind it. You can kind of just quickly throw it and it'll leave your hand quick, and it will fly fast. So that works for like my style of play. And then like obviously like it takes practice to try to like curve it correctly, and accuracy.
Yeah, that makes sense. And that was a good segue. I don't know if you might know who Dylan Odin is, but he had asked that question. We played. Yeah, we teamed up for the LA Classic. Oh, nice. Yeah, speaking of curveballs, like the kid's a monster with that. It's so frustrating.
Oh my God, yeah, him, Cody Foley, and Eric Stone, like they have some wicked, 7-inch foam ball throws.
Yeah, it's irritating. Impressive, but when you're playing against them, so irritating. Because you think you play 8.5 for so long, you kind of understand the trajectory and the ability that certain people have to manipulate the ball, but you understand there's a point where it can only give so much, where now you play in foam with these guys, that crap is like teleporting. The thing is like it's coming back. I mean, it's frustrating, but I mean it's cool and it's challenging, and it's like it's my next barrier to break in order to become a decent player. So definitely kudos
and
for
that's them. I mean like for me, like I try a long time ago, like I try to. So we wouldn't have leagues, I guess, like kind of like what you have in maybe Arizona or California is just heavily with leagues. Like we always had random tournaments in the Midwest, and we just went to some really bad tournaments, and like really bad dodgeballs we would play with really bad rules, and we would see it as a challenge more than get upset almost. Like we're like, okay, we're playing with overinflated rock hard 8.5, so we'll figure out how to win that. Okay, we're playing with 4-inch foam balls that are ripped. Okay, we'll figure out how to play with that. So that's just kind of like, that's how I am with the 7-inch too. Like I'll figure out how to master it.
Nice. Yeah, I mean that's I definitely feel you on that. I mean I've played on sand, I played on asphalt, I played with balls that are overinflated, I played with balls that are like shouldn't even be considered a ball. I mean, totally get it. Again, man, it's the good old days are. If we were playing with rocks, I wouldn't be surprised. Like it's just we've come a long way.
I kind of miss that too, because it's like, back to talking about like how it was in the beginning. You're kind of like. You're in like a garage band almost, and you just jump in the van and you just kind of travel to a tournament and you just have fun with your friends. Like I definitely miss that. It's definitely changed.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, I used to borrow my mom's Toyota Sequoia, like this pretty big sized SUV. I just like jam, half of Team Evil or the entire roster.
Yeah.
Of people that I have, some of them I've known since high school. Some I've watched them like Dylan. I mean, I knew that kid since he was 10. And just load him up the SUV, and we'd drive up to Phoenix and hope that the turnout was great. Hope that the tournament was still going to happen, because we didn't have social media saying, hey, it's canceled or whatever. We kind of had to just go on a whim. Mm-hmm. There's something. I'm glad you said that. There's something very sentimental that I do miss for being able to hop on a plane, this weekend and go to Elite West Coast round 1 and not have to worry about the setup, not to worry about the balls being overinflated or even if they're going to have, the right kind of ball, right? Or not having to worry about refs who have no idea what they're doing because they're part of like the bar staff or or self-efficient refs.
You wouldn't even know how many like charity tournaments we've been to, or like tournaments that are run by churches, and they they don't care about dodgeball. They just look at it as fun, and like the only knowledge they have is like the rules based off of the movie, which are terrible, by the way.
Yeah, it's just to not have to worry about any of that. It's I'm gonna be thinking about that when I'm heading to LA. It's just like, wow, this is great. I'm not having to worry about anything. I know when to go, when to be there, when to show up, know what I got to do. My team's going to be there. We're going to look great.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to have a lot of fun, and we're not going to have to worry about simple things. But again, on the flip side, for some reason, there's a lot about that quote unquote suffering that I do miss. And it was fun while it was a thing.
Yeah, that's why like Task Force and I are so tight. Like, because we've been playing for like 13 years together. And we've kind of just gone through all of that stuff together, you know, all those crappy tournaments and like driving through a blizzard for 4 hours from Detroit and just like, you know, getting into a hotel at like 3 a.m. We got to get up in like 2 hours for a tournament. That's one thing like I definitely love. Like half of it, of course, is the playing, but like it's just like the traveling with the guys.
Oh yeah, it's the excitement, the anticipation. You know, you're with your buddies.
Yeah, because when we talk,
because
when we talk about memories and stuff, it's never like, man, remember when SWAT had this crazy catch? No, it's like, remember when we went to that gas station, like Gordo spilled all the gasoline everywhere? Like it's stuff like that like we just love talking about.
So, good segue. What is your favorite dodgeball memory? At least, what is one that comes to mind that really just stands out?
Oh my God!
I warned you for this one too, by the way, so you should have came prepared.
Okay. I mean, I like Rob Immel's response. He says it's always the next one, and
that's a good one.
I agree. But you know, man, if you ever hang around with like Task Force, like we would always bring up old stuff. Like whenever I'm with them, like we just always bring up old memories, and it's great. But like the two memories. Actually, let me see. Maybe 3. So the first one was obviously like when Mark and Zarin helped me get to the first Vegas, because I was just like, I was crushed. Like I didn't want to do dodgeball anymore. There was that, and then the second one was I was kind of going through a rough thing too, where I couldn't find work, and it's the 2015 Vegas, and that year, like, because I don't really like, if you know me, and when I go run the north and stuff, like I won't eat, and I'll just be like everywhere. Like I'll make sure like I have to play, and then like I have to talk with my team for 5 seconds after we play, and then like I have to go collect scores and all that stuff, and I'll be such a machine that I won't eat. And I did this at Vegas, and you know, we were going through the third day pinch, and I'm like running on fumes, and like my body kind of shut down, and you know, my body was trying to like absorb any protein or nutrients or whatever, and there was nothing in my stomach. And you know, Zarin and Tia Fettig, Dylan Fettig's wife, both medical professionals, and they kind of like revived me. So I'll never forget that.
I remember that. I remember you posting about kind of laying the scene down, and
that was really like that's when I felt the love of the Dodgeball family. Just waking up out of that, and like everyone making sure I was okay. And then the third one, which was recently. So the reason I had to cancel our first call was because that day my company told me I was getting laid off, so I was just not in the mental state to do anything.
Oh, bummer, man.
And like the next day, like all the dodgeballers were like, Glenn, we got you. Like here's some opportunities. Like no problem. So those are probably like those, like I can say like, yeah, winning tournaments or whatever is great and all, but like it's stuff like that like I'll never forget.
For sure. I mean, hashtag dodgeball is family, right? Like people are asking, where can I play? Where should I stay?
That is so important. Yep.
Yeah, it's
you know, the dodgeball family is just accepting of anyone, just because like you know, anyone can play. Basically, you don't have to be tall, you don't have to be fast. It doesn't matter what you look like. Like, come play dodgeball.
You just gotta love the game, and then you're in.
Yeah. And it's so cool because, like, you know, we will beat the shite out of each other, and we'll go, like, laugh about it at the bar afterwards.
Yeah, I mean, for a sport that encourages you to throw something at somebody with intent to knock them out because they're going to catch it,
we're throwing weapons at each other,
right? And
then we're laughing about it later.
Yeah, you're engaged in close quarters combat with a ball, with a projectile, and it gets personal. But after most of the time, for like 98% of the people, if you can have a beer afterwards and talk about some highlights and be a big happy family afterwards. I mean, I don't know how it gets any better than that for anybody, for anything out there.
No, and like a close sort of alternative sport like dodgeball would be maybe kickball, and it's just not the same social aspect at all.
I disagree. I played a couple of seasons of kickball, and it's fun, but it's not whatever depth dodgeball has. Kickball does not come close at all.
No.
Cool. I did manage to pull some questions. Some I did integrate with our conversation, but I don't want to say like consider this the rapid fire round. But if we can go through some of these real quick, it'd be cool to see what your thoughts are. First of all, Emilio Veles, he said that you're like the first dodgeball player to buy a copy of the Dodgeball Teens.
Yeah.
Eventually, I'll get my hands on some of those copies. That sounds really cool.
I hope I meet Emilio one day. Like, he is a legend. Like, if you don't know what Dodgeball Teens are, like, you're probably not in Dodgeball family, or you live under a rock. Yeah.
There's no, and that guy's so on the beat too. Like, I'll post something and like somehow right after my finger lifts from the mouse, liked, shared, commented on by Emilio. He's so awesome.
Like, he's the biggest fan of dodgeball that doesn't play.
Yeah, and that's a testament to just dodgeball being around long enough to be able to garner support and enthusiasm from people like him. So it's so cool to see that, and definitely wanted to shout him out, or reverse shout out, I guess, because he kind of just mentioned you on that. Do you have, and this is from Kevin Bailey, do you have a favorite dodgeball shirt out of the 200 some odd shirts that you have?
Oh my God. I mean, I treat all my shirts like they're my children, but if
there's a fire, which one would you make sure you saved?
Man, I don't know. But I guess, like, when I get a new shirt, I wear it for a while, you know, and then when I get a new shirt, I'll wear that for a while. But I guess the one that I'm like consistently wearing now, and I don't really wear it when I play, it's more like it's like a warm-up shirt or something. It kind of like it means a lot because it means I've earned it almost, is the Elite North All-Star shirt. Like, nice. that one just looks like a different feeling than the rest of my shirts right now.
Gotcha. But of course, if there's a fire, you'd probably just grab as many as possible.
I grab as many as I could.
Fair enough.
Just because some, like, I know I'll never get a copy of again.
Fair enough. Dang, man, I wish I didn't throw out all mine. I should have kept most of them, figured out something to do with them, but oh well. They're
yeah, people are like, Glenn, you should make a quilt out of them, and I'm like, maybe when I die. Like, I still like wearing them.
Just bury me in them.
Yeah, but make a coffin of dodgeball shirts for me.
Oh man. Well, hopefully that won't be for a very, very long time. Let's see. Monica Aguilera asks, "What is the married life with Jake like?" And I think a lot of us are just collectively jealous that you have access to Jake Mason.
Oh my God. I'll try to be as fast as I can. Well, I don't just live with Jake. I live with Peter Parker, which is his beagle. And, I'm not just saying this because it's in the rental agreement and I'm forced to say it, but, living with Jake has just been an absolute delight. Like, there's probably not a day that goes by that we don't talk about dodgeball and, like, the progression of it. And we, in this household, we probably got more dodgeball shirts than the whole rest of the community combined. We just have mountains of stuff of dodgeball. Like, he just got in all the USA gear, and we just have, like, the boxes of it everywhere. And it's I don't know. Like when I told him I was moving out to California, and if he knew anybody that was looking for a roommate or something, he's like, I hate this guy that I'm living with right now, and he's living like, bi-weekly. I'll just kick him out and you can live with me. And I'm like, oh my God, dude. I don't even know what to say.
That worked out.
Yeah.
That's a funny one. Let's see. I'm going to try not to butcher his name, but in this one, I don't know how we can go about this one without getting too into it, but just whatever comes to mind. Joe Colella from Arsenal, number 56, out of San Diego, asked, who are your top 10 competitors, people that you just love to square off against? And I mean, it doesn't have to be set in stone. I'm sure, you'll probably forget people, but...
Oh, man. I don't know. Like, I'll leave the top 10 lists to Tyler.
Let's do top 3.
Oh, man, like... for years, like, I feel like I can go head to head with anybody, but like for years, just because like living in Chicago and you're not really exposed that much to, the only time you're really exposed to like the great dodgeball players would be like nationals or something. And like the 3 players that like I couldn't figure out their throw, or like I couldn't time the speed, would be like Pyan and Ketchum and Vince. And like, the more like after living here for a while, like I play against them consistently, and I feel like I'm seeing it better and better every time now. So probably those 3.
Nice. I'm sure they make everybody's top 3 at the very least. It's a fair one. And I think I know the answer to this one. Me and Tim Wells were talking about this, but Tyler wanted to know, why are you so serious? Did you pick this up from anybody? Why
am I so stoic? Man, I think it's just it's a combination of things. It's and this stems back from like when I first started playing dodgeball too. Like a lot, like my rival teams. My rival team would be Western Springs, which consisted of like half of Task Force now. And it would always be like my team versus their teams, and I would never be able to beat them, and they would always give me for it. And when we were able to finally like beat them consistently, like never shoved it in their face, I just kind of was like kind of quiet about it because I didn't need to say anything. And that's just how I kind of was. Like, I just kind of get into this mental state where you kind of submerge into the zone, I guess. Because dodgeball for me is also like a sort of place of sanctuary. Like, whatever's going on in my life, like I step on that court and that's all that matters right now. And another thing would be like I'm cycling through all of the opponents that I'm about to face right now. Like, okay, I've seen this player play, like he does this in this situation. He throws it this way when I pump fake him, he crouches down like this. And that's just how I am. Like, I'm different when I'm actually playing too, because I sort of become a field general for Task Force, so I'm kind of calling plays and stuff. But for the most part, like, I try to keep, especially like winning a game, like I keep my celebrations like at a low.
Hey, just you're contained and you're in the moment.
I know, and people come up to me like, Glenn, are you okay? Like, what are you sad about? I'm like, I'm just extremely focused right now.
Nice. That makes sense. I mean, I talked to Kenny about it too, and there's like I don't want to say like a self hypnosis, but if you mentally decide you're gonna win, you have a much better chance of winning versus anybody who's already committed mentally to defeat, no matter how good they are. So
yeah, and like, and I don't have this all the time, but I try to get myself into that mental state where you're just kind of like, it all makes sense, like it all clicks for you. Like, I know I'm going to win this. I can see, when you play against people enough times, you can kind of sort of see plays before they happen. And you just kind of go in with that kind of level of confidence. And it's not like that all the time for me, but like when it does, it's a good feeling.
Yeah, you're on when that happens.
Yeah. Like a perfect example would be, if you watch the showdown for 2015, like you can just like I went up against Matt D, and I've been playing against Matt D for 8 years, so I was like super comfortable. Like I knew how he played. So yeah, that would be like a good example of it, of when I was like in the zone.
Yeah, it's like we said, where when you're on the court, when you're in the gym, the only thing that matters is dodgeball. You can not worry about whatever life issues you have going on, not worry about your job. This is you and your passion in your sanctuary, and your sanctuary doesn't necessarily have to be a place of peace. It could be a place of chaos and combat that we know is dodgeball. So it's
yeah, and that's what like, so the 3 players that like I looked up to, and you probably know these names, but a lot of the young people might not, if they'd have to go look at old videos and stuff. But the Chicago guys like Zach Tholen, like he taught me the sanctuary aspect. Like he doesn't care if he won or lost. Like just the act of throwing a ball was his stress reliever. And Jenkins kind of taught me how to be humble. Like, it's not like, oh man, we won that game. Like, oh my God, that team lost. He was always like, stay focused. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, we got to get ready for the next one. And then Brian Lowe, who, the guy would never talk. I never heard him say more than like 2 words maybe. But whenever he entered into a gym, it was like, like Brian Lowe's here. Like I wanted to like get to that level. Like, oh my God, like Glen Spejcher's here.
People like, oh crap, they
And I just kind of like I figured out how to get to that level by like picking different things from different people. Like I would never get mad at anyone for getting me out. I'd be more mad at myself, and I'd be like, all right, that guy rushed me. Like, I needed to figure out how to have quick feet like that. Like, oh my God, that guy just threw at me while not looking at me. Like, I got to figure out how to practice that. Like, that's cool. So yeah.
It's funny because, like, just as you said, you picked and pulled from various sports that you engaged in your youth and prior to dodgeball. Sounds like you did that again with people that you played against with and alongside with for all these years, and then just learn from previous mistakes and find out how you can get better. I mean, people might ask themselves, like, how does Glenn throw so hard, or how is he so good, or how was so and so good? And this is how, like, we're kind of breaking down exactly what makes that person, and so kind of like an amalgamation of all of your experiences from 2004 to now. And it's, as long as we're taking care of ourselves, the future's looking really bright, and I'm excited to see you this weekend, see how you come out.
Yeah, this is the first conversation we've ever had together of all these years we've played.
Yeah, it was kind of funny and sad when you mentioned that on when I was talking to you on Facebook.
Yeah.
I was like, dang, I've known this guy for like 10 years, and I've never actually sat down and talked to him. Like, we've had pleasantries, maybe, if that, prior to.
Who knows? We'll probably be awkward on Saturday. Like,
yeah,
oh, hey,
no,
man.
I'm going straight back to my shell on Saturday. But we'll see, man. But I guess we can go ahead and end it there. When I was talking to Glenn offline, and he even mentioned it prior to the close of our discussion, he did make the point that we've known each other for quite a while now, but the podcast actually got us talking as 2 individuals, and it's pretty crazy thinking about the parallels that we have. We've had our few interactions, of course, and I was very happy to present him with an Evil jersey as a thank you for his help with the North and the tons of videos and footage that he helped release to really help build the Elite brand and following. But he does make a good point. There are probably tons of you out there that we all know of but rarely get to interact with off the courts, and for me, this podcast has afforded a great opportunity to not only pick the brains of the finest dodgeball players out there, but just to get to know them a little bit more in a more intimate setting, and just understand how vast and strong the dodgeball community really is. I know we talked about that a few times, and it's just another thing that I just could not be more grateful for. And my list of people that I want to talk to just continues to expand as we go. That being said, if you're wanting to chat about dodgeball, Doesn't matter if you've been playing as long as I have or you just started last week, hit me up. Till then, keep feeding me ideas, feedback, suggestions, comments. It's all so very much appreciated and just helps make the podcast that much better. For everyone competing this weekend at the West Coast Round 1 tournament, good luck. For everyone else, have a great weekend, and I'll catch you next time. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Dodgeball Codcast. How does that happen?